Welcome back to Love, Life, and Legacy, the podcast dedicated to helping you navigate these hyper-sexualized times of ours. And in today's episode, Benjy and I are unpacking connection. You see, it's kind of important. When we are connected, we make better decisions. When we are fulfilled, we live life in a way that makes sense in accordance to the type of person that we want to be. It's when we're disconnected from ourselves, from others, and from God, our heavenly parent, that we make all sorts of questionable decisions in a desperate attempt to achieve some form of acknowledgement or like to gain recognition or love in some any way possible. And we just want to help you with that. We want to unpack it because it's so essential. It's foundational to sexual integrity. It's foundational to a life where you can really like build happiness that you can keep. So please, without further ado, join us as we discuss and unpack what is connection, how do you get it, and I think that's it. Let's go. Welcome back. What is good? What's bad? Help. We don't know anymore. We're just stuck in a state of relativism. Everything is just how we feel.
It is what it is. Acceptance.
So everybody, this is I want to start this. I want to show you the stakes of the importance of this conversation and how important it is for you to focus on answering this question for yourself, because we can't do that. We can give you a bunch of options, but ultimately you got to figure this out for yourself. In the beginning of our journey, Benjy and I were there at the Set Free Summit. Benjy introduced me I was introduced to the world of what pornography is doing to society and all this. But Benjy, on a personal level, introduced me to how fat I would be if I lived in North Carolina, because he showed me a restaurant chain called Cookout, where you can get it's like a Frosty, right? But you can have like over almost 200 ingredients and put them inside, including cheesecake, or what are some wild things that you can put in there?
Watermelon. It's like a straight up watermelon. Oreo, cheesecake, watermelon, milkshake. They're called milkshakes. They call them fancy shakes, by the way. And you can get anything you ask them, they legally have to put it in the milkshake for you.
It's fantastic. That's America. Regardless if you're in an ambulance and you're already dying of a coronary, they are legally forced to give you the thing that's going to push you over the edge.
That's it.
So that I'll never forget that weekend for that reason, but also because it changed the trajectory of my life. Because now, ever since, I've been focusing on, sexual integrity. But in that weekend, I wrote down in my notes, and I didn't need to because it was written down in my soul, the idea that the opposite of addiction is connection. Yeah. And so we learned that. We've been saying it for the past almost 10 years, the High Noon world. But the point is, what is connection? Because it's not this easy thing to solve for. But we wanted to unpack that. What is connection, what it isn't, and how to get it, and how we get it. But ultimately, please understand that the one thing that I've realized over the past few months especially is that everybody has to find their own way to connection, because it looks different how you connect, how often you connect, in what ways you connect, and in which combination you connect in order for you to have the sense of fulfillment. So the idea is that if the opposite of addiction is connection, what's going on here? Because that's not a linear path for a lot of people. Well, it's the fact that when you are in an addicted state, it's because you are disconnected from yourself, like you are running away from yourself. So to be connected is to be your real self, your true self, right? But in order to do that, we're never our true selves in isolation, right? We're never our true selves without some sense of belonging in this universe. So there's a lot there. So Benjy, can you like outline for me a time when you felt utterly disconnected? Has anything happened recently, or do you remember anything acutely from when you just felt totally disconnected from a life that made any sense to you?
Yeah. I mean, there's moments. I would say there's an overall relentless upward trajectory in my life of connection, but there are moments where it feels like, well, you are. I was taking one giant step back in order to take more steps forward, right? And that's kind of how growth feels a lot of the time. And so there were, like, let's break this down to sexual integrity, porn addiction, because it's one of the most relevant and relatable things, right? And if people don't struggle with that, you can think about it in terms of diet and junk food, right?
Sure.
So I would say, like acting out sexually at night and just feeling like it was the sixth time that week or something, or maybe even that day, and then waking up in the middle of the night with the thought in my head, like, I can't believe I'm still here, like that was like a defining moment that I remember very vividly, is just waking up, several times, kind of like a reoccurring nightmare. If you ever have those, like teeth
Sure.
falling out or running in sand or something like that. It's just waking up and being like, I can't believe I'm still here, you know?
Mm.
And so that was, in retrospect, thinking now, indicative of clearly lacking connection in every definition of the word, lacking connection with God, with myself, with my family, my parents, relationships,
Mm.
and so that's kind of what we're getting to, I think, in this conversation, right? Is like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's so. Imagine that. That's great segue. To feel disconnected from what? So that's the first question. If you're feeling uneasy about your lot in life, about some aspect of your life, the first question is like, what am I disconnected from? And for a lot of people, it's like from a sense of purpose, right?
mm,
That's the North Star goal realm is what. I don't feel like anybody needs me. I don't feel like I'm wanted anywhere, or that my if I just disappeared, this is a very common kind of suicidal or just depressed thought, is like, if I just disappeared, nobody would notice, right? And this is a very strong feeling that a lot of people experience regularly, and I think all of us have experienced at times, is like, okay, you lack a sense of purpose. So if I have no purpose, then what's the point? So all of a sudden now you're disconnected from a deep meaning. And that's not like my status, because that comes and goes. My bank account, that changes by the second, especially in our economy that's ever changing, right? Um, it's your universal intrinsic value as a child of God. Like, do you feel that? And if not, it's very easy to feel disconnected from a sense of belonging and purpose in this world. So that's like a good place to start.
mm,
But then there's like, are you? So that's vision. Am I disconnected from my purpose, my like, my raison d'être, my reason for being, this kind of thing. Another thing is like, am I disconnected from my surroundings, right? Like, am I engaging with the world around me? The pandemic created this huge sense of isolation because people weren't connecting with each other, right? So they couldn't go to the park, they couldn't do so many things, and this made them a stranger in their own life. They couldn't connect with the world around them, meaning walking down the street and looking at somebody and saying hi to a stranger, or looking at a bird and saying, like, just feeling something about, like,
mm,
this is when we are staring at our phones all the time. I've noticed this. You can be in a park surrounded by beauty and be completely disconnected by it. And it makes you feel lonely because you're in nature, but you're not with nature, right?
mm,
Or if you're married, or if you're in a family, and you're with them, but you're disconnected from them, it gives you a lot of anxiety because your spirit wants to be connected with your environment. And if you're disconnecting by distracting yourself with your phone or something, then it makes you feel very strange. That's a huge form of disconnection. Is like, I I don't relate with my environment. I don't feel close to it. I don't feel connected to it. It's a very strange feeling because I'm here, but I'm not here. You know, it's
mm,
like if you have the wrong set of friends and they're all talking about stuff and you're like, all you feel is like, I wish I wasn't here. That is a tremendously lonely feeling. It's like you're surrounded by people, but you're not connected. There's a very big difference between being somewhere, like in a park and feeling connected to the park. And same with being close to people and feeling close to people, very different, right?
Hmm.
And if you aren't getting that connection with your environment, then you
Yeah.
feel disconnected. That's a very bad feeling. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The word that comes to mind is being present with people and the environment where we are, right?
Yeah.
Uh, I had a very, very vivid and interesting dream last night. If anyone is interested in hearing about it, but some people, when they hear about dreams, they go, "Oh," and then some people are really into dreams. So, but
Lay it on
it's
us,
related.
man.
Okay, um, I'll say the conclusion, and I'll tell you the dream. The conclusion is about the importance of really being connected with people, especially the loved ones in our lives. It's a really short dream, and I'll just preface by saying, you know, either dreams are just random subconscious thoughts trying to be organized, or they're spiritual, right? Or they're somewhere in between. I would say either way, it's miraculous. Dreams are miraculous that we were able to dream. And so I say that to like put down the guard of like, oh, dreams are just a bunch of mumbo jumbo,
Sure.
subconscious BS. So in my dream, one of my good friends' father passed away, and I didn't feel anything. I showed up to the funeral, and I was like, "Oh, I didn't know that he died like this." Right? I had no
Mm.
emotion whatsoever, and I noted that in my dream. And then later on in the dream, the same dream, my wife had passed away. All right.
Good God.
Yeah. And I was really torn, as you can imagine. Like, I don't know if people have had dreams or have experienced this in real life, just immense pain, just like sobbing. And uh and then and then the end of my dream, Andrew, my mother passed away. Okay. This was
Could
last
you
night.
just stop it, Benji? Just stop it.
Okay. I'm laying this on to you guys because maybe there's reasons for stuff. And
Mm.
uh and so my mother passed away, and uh I was just like torn. And then I asked the son of the original guy that passed away, the dad, that I wasn't feeling anything. I asked the
Still
son
with you?
because we were talking together and we're walking, and I was like sobbing, and I was like, "How do you deal with this pain of losing your parent? How do you
Mm.
deal with this?" And he said, "It's never easy like that." Right.
Okay.
And then when he said that, I saw my mom, like, I don't know, I saw her in the dream. I saw her spiritually, and she was cutting flowers like outside of her house, our old house when I grew up, where we grew up. And she was young. She was, she still had her brown hair. She was maybe in her 30s or 40s. And I was like, "Mom," I was like, "That, like, is that you, Mom?" And she's like, "Yes," right? Like that, smiling. And then she disappeared. And
Mm.
then, and then I woke up from the dream, and I just cried like in my bed. And I woke up my wife, and I just like, "Can you hold me?" And I just cried, like sobbed.
Mm.
And whatever the reason, maybe there's no lesson to be learned. I don't know, but I like to learn lessons. And so I was feeling like either the lesson for me that I want to take away from this is either we should really don't make light of life, and don't make light of really, how gruesome loss can be for people, for us humans. But also the lesson that I'm taking away is don't take for granted the people that we have in our lives. And I really felt that. Um, and I know
Yeah.
a lot of people lose a lot of things in their lives, and they have to really learn the lesson through the actual experience. But I was grateful to have a dream where I could really feel that pain, to some degree, and just wake up just so like not upset, just like grieving.
Mm.
Uh, and so when you're speaking about like enjoying the park and enjoying the people in our lives, I had this image of my mom cutting flowers in my dream, and just she was just like tending to the garden.
Mm.
And to me, that's just being present with people. That's really not extrapolating our thoughts from the past or the future, or anxiety about what things are going to look like, how my kids are going to work out, how my marriage is going to work out, bringing back my resentment from the past, my addictions from the past, but really just being, for lack of a better word, just enjoying things as they are, and being present with ourselves. Like to me, like if I were to summarize what I feel like connection is just like just being here and being connected to myself, to God, to everyone that's around me and the environment. And that's it. You know,
As
it's
much as
like,
possible. Yeah.
yes, as much as possible and striving for that, importantly. Not because
Well,
it's like
that's
people
I
yeah,
have
go
to
ahead.
interject because this is there's a lot of pressure, especially when you start having kids, and you just there's a lot of expectations on you that uh one of the worst feelings I've ever felt is when I realize I'm on my phone and my kids are trying to seek attention and I'm not giving it to them, and I'm like,
Mm,
what am I doing, right? So but at the same time, my kids are always seeking attention, and they're getting older now, so they're more self sufficient. But for many years, they were just full on. They're like the little chicks. You see the bird and the little birdies behind it, just like following the mama. That was me. And I realized, well, I actually do need to take some time by myself. And when I take out my phone, in those instances, a lot of times it's just because I'm so stressed. I need like a momentary break, but I'm doing it in the wrong time. So it is important to kind of manage that sometimes you're overly connected, right? Like there's too much stimulus going in and you need to then disconnect from your environment and then connect with yourself and just breathe. And by the way, your phone is never the avenue to connect to yourself. Typically you can connect with
mhm,
people
mhm,
through WhatsApp, but like to connect to yourself is like to actually be with your thoughts and feelings. um, but I just want to say that because I've gotten much better at recognizing that I'm too full right now and just saying, hey guys, can I have like 10 minutes and just like be myself and stare at a wall or just like
mhm.
breathe and calm down because I got too
Yeah,
much. And then I can go back to them because a lot of times we feel bad for taking breaks or taking care of ourselves, right? So
yeah.
connection, there is definitely a lack of connection in everybody's life in some respect, but there's also over connection and an imbalanced connection. Okay, so I was talking with a guy yesterday about this because he's very new to high noon, and I was just really recommending that he looks at what is the cocktail of connection that he needs to feel full, fulfilled, full and filled, right? You feel full and filled uh, when you like guys have a certain amount of energy. I don't know about women. I just don't. Not this kind of, but we have to actually wrestle or do something we have aggression in us, and it's not bad. The word aggression sounds bad, but it's just like it's a very subjective energy that wants to sometimes break stuff in order to rebuild it, sometimes just to like wrestle, or just like my kids have that and they've been really exploring that lately. And it's before bed, typically they do this Mongolian wrestling for like, I don't know, sometimes 30 minutes, and they can't stop themselves, right? And if they do, then it's a weird energy that goes into other strange places. So like there's male touch, there's I need to connect to somebody emotionally by having a deep conversation. For some people it's a lot more than others. I know some people like one deep emotional conversation every few months is more than enough, like they feel good. Other people, they need to connect regularly. So there's that type of connection. There's connecting with nature, I think, is more important than most people realize. Like shoes off, walking around on grass or lying down in a park on a blanket, just looking up at the sky. Like this kind of stuff settles us in a way where it connects us to the rhythm, the natural rhythms of nature, right? There's all varieties of connection, but connection to art, I realize like I actually need at least a few times a week to feel swept away in beauty through music. Uh,
Mm,
Possibly through movies it's harder for me, but music can really take me to this beautiful place and it makes me feel the wonderment of life again. So I need to connect to the beauty of art every so often. So these points of connection, you really have to observe in yourself. What does this connection do for you? And how do you get it? What's the most natural form of it? And then how often do you need it? Right? So what is it that you're looking for? How do you get it and how often? These three questions, if you can start answering that, then what you do is you start creating your life around that. because these allow you to have enough energy, enough positivity, enough juice, life juice, to have a full battery. You always talk about that, to do all the other things that you need to do in life. And if you're very careful of like what, I was just trying to charge my phone this morning. It was the most frustrating thing, Benji. I was going to have a call with you. My battery was at 17%. It's like, oh, I better charge this. I'm going to have a long talk with Benji. So I plugged it in and then it went back. It says it's charging and now it's at 14%. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And so I unplugged it, plugged it back in. It's clearly plugged in and it's the juices are flowing. And then I check in and it's now 12%. I'm like, why is this happening? Right. So there's, I mean, the metaphor there is like sometimes you think that your connection is filling you up, but it's draining you because maybe you want to connect with somebody and that person talks too much and they're too self-centered to really hear you. And so you feel drained instead of filled up. Right. So you need, like, I think there's too many forms of connection to really mention it here. But the point is, start looking at the main three that we recommend in High Noon is connected to self, connected to Heavenly Parent, God, and connected to others. Those three things. But then within that, there's like I was mentioning, for me, it's art. For me, it's, I need to connect to my body through physical exercise. Like I need to discipline myself. Like it's really valuable for me, my mental health. So there's all these things that you have to construct in your life. Nobody can do it for you, but experiment with it and you'll see the resultant state is, wow, I just feel good for no reason. I just feel good. I feel like life is flowing. I feel like still get into fights sometimes, but they're resolved quickly. They don't linger. They don't stick around. I just feel natural. I feel like myself, you know?
Yeah, I got you. Of those three, for people that are especially dealing with unwanted behaviors or addictions, of those three, I would recommend connecting with others as a starting point because the other ones become easier if you connect with others, especially if people are stuck in the same cycle, right?
Sure.
Because let's take someone who has a unwanted porn habit. It would be like, okay, well, I don't want to connect with people because I'm just going to connect with myself and connect with God and go out in nature and deal with my habits there. And that very quickly becomes a scapegoat or justification to not connect with people, and which might be the actual thing that's needed in order to experience God more and in order to understand and see ourselves more, because we might just need to connect with a uncle figure, older brother, sister, mother, father, a mentor, just to be able to see ourselves more clearly from like a more bird's eye view, but also so that we can experience God through people, because there's an argument to be said that God fundamentally is experienced through human relations originally.
Yeah.
Like that's where we're supposed to feel God first in our lives, is through the family.
Hey, if you're a young blessed couple that was blessed sometime in the last few years, boy, do we have something for you. Radiant is our program that's just for young couples that were blessed recently that want to take their intimate relationship to deeper levels and higher heights. Go to highnoon.org to join the Radiant program or check out somewhere down below this episode. And we hope to see you in the program so you can learn more about absolute sex and God and how to be an awesome, radiant, blessed couple. All right, see ya.
And it becomes easier to turn that switch on and be like, when I'm really struggling, like for me, speaking for myself, or stressed, it's like I've become better at just turning it on the connection, because I could just like remember that one time where I just felt incredibly loved, by God and by my wife or my parents. I'm like, oh yeah, like I don't need to feel this way. I don't need whatever escapism behavior, because like I know I'm loved. Like that's an instant access to turning on the floodgate of connection and love, based on previous experiences and reference points. And I'm saying that it's like, it's not the only way, like of those three, but I would say people that are like getting started and are like, I don't know where to start, like just start by talking with people, like people that are ahead in life and then can give you some perspective and love. I mean, not to plug our groups and our programs, but that's literally the structure that we're creating in High Noon, is to give you a structure that you can connect with human beings. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And find different ways to connect based on a vision for yourself. So yeah, again, how much do you need to really share about your fears? You got to figure that out. If you just talk about your fears every day, it's probably not healthy because you're just empowering your fears too much. But if you never talk about them, they will have this very sinister grip on you, and you won't understand why things aren't working out. It's because actually you're living out of fear because you're not processing the fear. So even something as simple as that, how much are you connecting on certain things? The extremes are where I typically guide people is like, do you have somebody in your life? And these groups are a great example of a place, a forum for that, where you can discuss your hopes and your dreams and your biggest fears and anxieties. Like that is real accountability. And that's where we feel heard, is when we can share that stuff, because it's usually the stuff that we hold back. It doesn't make sense to share to the average person, like, you know, some gripping fear that you have um about the future, some, you know, concern about the state of our world or something, right? So yeah, you know, it's the basics are connecting to self, connecting to God, connecting to other people. And I do agree with most people that it's the connecting to people aspect that they leave until the last bit, because it's the hardest to reveal yourself to other people, but it's the most rewarding. And I also do agree that even for us, like, sometimes we just connect with our environment in the exact same way and everything becomes unconscious. Like, you don't really, I for sure, like the house that I grew up in for 20 years, I remember going down to the basement and seeing this painting and be like, when do we get this painting? They're like, it's been here your whole life. And I was like, I've never seen this paint. I don't remember ever looking at this painting because it was just there.
Mm-hmm.
It was there in the background and I never looked at it. Right. So every once in a while we need to shake things up. And 2 weeks ago, I was in the Philippines to help relaunch the chapter, and I was having so many emotional experiences, like just crying in my hotel room, just doing all this stuff because I was being inundated with this sense of God that I needed to experience through lack of sleep and travel and just like being uncomfortable, but also connecting deeply and having uh, amazing conversations and very frustrating conversations. I needed this stuff in order to experience God anew. I needed to completely, you know, get out of my environment. So, um, yeah, it's if you're seeking for connection, please jot down those moments where you just felt comfortable in your own skin. You felt loved, and you felt loving towards yourself, because that's when you make good decisions. And if you jot down, well, what helped me to get to this feeling, then you're starting to notice a pattern. And that's what we really want in High Noon, is for you to understand your patterns, the bad patterns that you're in, so you can interrupt those. And then also the good patterns that you're forming, so that you can create more of those patterns. Um, because when you are like, I can't tell you how many bad decisions I would make in life if I didn't have a wife and kids. They keep me striving to better myself instead of just being a dink and doing something really just regrettable. Even like online, you see all these people doing really stupid things online for attention because they're not getting attention from in a real meaningful way. And so a lot of times, like even when I did comedy for a long time, I wouldn't talk about certain things because I was like, what if my mom heard this? Like, I don't want to embarrass her, right? So it was like that tethered me to some sense of decency. And so if we're isolated, we typically make bad decisions. But when we're connected, it's like, I don't want to ruin that. I don't want to jeopardize my relationships just for this stupid quick fix or whatever.
Yeah.
But because we're more isolated, then people are just doing stupid and stupid things just for like a glimpse of acceptance or acknowledgement or, you know, fame or whatever, right? But you don't need that. You don't need that when you're fulfilled, you know? If imagine you have a parent and you sit down with them and they just fill you up with so much love and you feel God's love directly from them, you're not going to be like, man, I'm going to go risk my life doing something really stupid. That's like the last thing you're going to go home and you're just going to go sit and you're going to relish this beautiful feeling of like, man, I feel so loved right now.
Simple example. Last year we did workshops in Europe, and after we had some time between London and Poland workshops, like during the week. And I was without my family, And so to your point of doing dumb things when we don't have wife or kids,
Uh-huh.
I took a trip to Italy, and
I remember that.
I didn't plan a single thing, like nothing. I had
Uh-huh.
no money. I had
Yeah.
no way to get around. I had nowhere to
Uh-huh.
stay. And they don't speak English in the country, like really, really countryside Italy, which is where I went, Amalfi Coast. And I had to barter my way around to figure out where to stay and how to survive. And it was the most awesome adventure, but it was like borderline really just stupid. Yeah,
Sure.
it was stupid.
Yeah. And
That kind of stuff.
so it's not a matter of like, they used to have those "What would Jesus do" bracelets, which became just a meme and everybody made fun of them. It's not about, and I don't know if you heard about this, but back in the day, to help people stop watching porn, people used to wear elastic bands around their wrists, and every time they had an urge, they would snap it so they'd experience some sort of pain. This is not what we're talking about. Like the being consciously aware that there is a God or anything like that. If you're in your head, you're already a little bit too late. And I had this conversation with somebody yesterday. If you're logically trying to convince your heart not to feel something, you've already lost. Your heart will feel what it's going to feel. You can't like coerce it, but you can fill it up with the good stuff so that you stop feeling the need for the fake stuff. So, for instance, like this guy was talking about watching porn, is like he tries to rationalize with his heart why he doesn't want to watch porn, but it's already kind of almost a foregone conclusion when his heart has decided that it wants something. I want to run away. It's already packed its bags. It's out the door. You can't convince it otherwise. But you can optimize your life so that your heart never gets to that place that it wants to run away. That's by taking care of it. That's by filling it up with the good stuff. And so that's what we're kind of talking about, is your brain wants to run away often, as well as your heart sometimes. But only if you're not treating them with the respect and the intentionality that they need and require in order to stay stimulated in a good way. So then how do you stimulate your heart? How do you stimulate your spirit? How do you stimulate your mind in productive ways so that they don't need crappy stimulation, which is what porn is, which is what even scrolling is just like, just nothingness. It's keeping you distracted. It's like a lot of shiny lights. We think humans are so like complicated, but it's just, phones are just shiny lights with a bunch of pixels. Like, woo, 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 look, look, look. It's like firecracker. I always laugh at firecrackers because no matter how fancy humanity gets, we all just love looking at things explode in the sky. And it can draw millions of people, you know, like 4th of July or whatever. And it's like, wow, an exploding thing. So we're easily stimulated, but it doesn't fill our souls up at all.
I think one of the really subtle and insidious artificial forms of connection is phone use, and this is like Meta Facebook's mission statement is connecting the world, for example, and it is the biggest bunch of baloney. Like, do you feel more connected to people?
Watch your language, Benjamin.
Baloney, like baloney. After watching YouTube YouTube as well. And so I think that's an easy example. The harder examples are like, for example, I think it was yesterday, my wife had an opportunity to kind of be alone, and I was taking the kids to the park. And so I dropped her off somewhere, and I was like, okay, do you want to go shopping or do you want to go to Starbucks? And I was trying to hint to her, like, I think you should go to Starbucks, because when she does that, she kind of reflects and she maybe, writes journal, makes some goals and that kind of thing. And when she's at Target, she just kind of window shops, and they're both relaxing. But I was like really hinting, like, I really think you should go to Starbucks because you're going to just internalize more and like actually connect with yourself and with God. And she's like, no, I want to go Target because I like shopping. Right. And I was like, okay, I'll let you decide. We'll see what you do. And then I told the kids when we dropped her off, I was like, I bet she's going to go to Starbucks because I think she's going to understand that window shopping is it feels like a form of like relaxation, but it's kind of like another form of just escaping, where in reality, it's like, it's not really connecting with something. It's just another form of, just being alone. And there's so many things like that feel like it's charging us up, or feel like we're getting a battery charge, where it's actually just draining us a little more because we're, again, relying on the same stimuli just to feel something or not feel something or numb something. But instead, if you have an option to like isolate or connect, that's really like the fork in the road that I see, especially the people that we work with. When you feel whatever emotion it is, do you isolate or do you connect? And the isolation is so easy to grab onto because it looks really innocent, but the connection part is a lot harder initially because it's like working out for the first time. You don't really know how to do it, and it's kind of painful. But when you do it enough, then it's like oh, this is easy. I'd actually rather do that connecting thing because I know I feel better when I do that, you know?
Yeah. Well, you know, there's other options than Starbucks and Target, Benjy. I'll give you a talk later.
I'm just in the context of things that let me in the context of things that Hitoe likes to do. It's like she's going to do one of these things. She's going to go to Starbucks and drink coffee and write in her journal. And this was a particularly stressful day for her. And so I was like, I think you would benefit more from actually reflecting than in just walking around and, you know, buying stuff or whatever.
Yeah, buying muscle shirts. Yeah, got you. Yeah, that's a good point. Is also the type of conversations you have. You could say, well, I don't understand. I feel really stressed out. I've been connecting a lot with people. And it's like, well, there's a difference between talking about stupid stuff like, you know, sports or whatever. It fills you up maybe just in a very generic way, you know, or world events or whatever. But it's very different than when was the last time you told somebody, you lifted somebody up to the highest heights of letting them know how loved they are and how much you cherish your relationship with them. That's very different. And vice versa. When was the last time you shared something with somebody very deep and then they validated you by saying, man, thank you for sharing. I love you so much. Right. That's extremely, you know, a world apart from talking about, I don't know, local mayoral politics or something that's like about them. And it's not to say that's meaningless, but it's definitely not going to fill you up. And so the type of connection, I feel like people are very used to, people have many acquaintances and very few friends. And that's actually quite a big problem. We all need both. They both serve their purpose, but the friendship thing is what will make you feel much more connected to a sense of belonging. So that's at the end of the day is when you can't cope, when you are so disconnected from yourself, it's like you're suffocating and you need something to get you through the day. That's where addiction pops its little head in and says, I'll get you through the day. You're still suffocating, but it's like a temporary respirator, so you don't immediately die. But it doesn't resolve the problem of like, why are you drowning in the first place? So that is where connection comes in. So yeah, you know, without belaboring this too much, I would just really encourage everybody to start documenting the things in your life that you do, that you participate in, that make you feel disconnected, and the things in your life that make you feel really connected or a little bit of connection. There's a newsletter that I just wrote. I don't know what's coming out. Benjy knows about microdosing, and that's the 5 virtues. Is like it's important to microdose connection throughout the day. Of like, if you take out your phone, maybe likely you want some form of connection, and you're willing to settle from social media. Why don't you turn that into getting into WhatsApp or Messenger or something, and just shoot somebody a message. I just did this 2 days ago. I sent a couple of people messages just like really saying, you're the coolest person ever, you know? And I just had it in my heart. I wanted to connect with somebody and let them know. And they were like, wow, thank you so much. Obviously, you know, it's never bad to receive those messages. But yeah, to microdose, like imagine you do that a couple times a day, you just messaging random people, love bombing them just with kind words. It's versus pulling out your phone and then just scrolling on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, something, right? The feeling, the result of connection is vastly different. Even though you're looking at way more people when you scroll, but you're not connecting with any of them really, but rather you reach out to them and say something to them. It's very different. Same phone, same usual desire, totally different result, right?
Yeah.
So if you observe this, you will notice certain times where you need connection more than others. Stressful times, we need connection, and that's when we connect least. Exams, right? It's when people isolate themselves, and that's when people really watch a lot of porn, typically because they're so stressed out. Or a stressful event happens in your family or something like that. Those are the times to double down on connection and be very aware of how connected you feel.
Mm.
But also Fridays, like I know a lot of people that they escape on Friday nights. That's, I mean, the party culture, drinking, going to a club, going to a bar, something like that is collective disconnection. Like, I'm so stressed out. Let's all just get wasted and forget about life for a moment, right? Rather than what they should be doing. I mean, most people, like on a Friday night, if you feel so stressed out, it just goes to something that really makes you feel connected. And then the rest of the weekend, you're making many different decisions.
Yeah, I think a good benchmark or milestone for people is when they do feel really difficult emotions, it's almost a form of excitement for the opportunity to connect deeper, because that's
Yeah.
really what you can isolate deeper or you can connect deeper. And so for me, I'm in a place where if I'm really feeling something like a new level of stress, like there's something in me that goes like, this is great. Like this is going to be really good at the end. I can feel it, like
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
I shed this skin, which will be painful, it'll be an opportunity for deeper realization and connection.
Yeah,
And I
dude.
think that's good. Like that's healthy. It's like, yes, stress, awesome. Let me take this on. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like that nervous feeling is trying to take you to a place of growth. And same with, man, I don't want to have this conversation. I don't want to tell anybody. That feeling is actually just, uh, it wants you to have the conversation so that you can grow to the next level. Growth in a real deep way is seldom like an exciting feeling. It's more like a terrifying experience of, I'm going to become a new person. Like, nobody can understand the emotions of a caterpillar before it turns into a butterfly. But I don't think it's like, yay. It's more like, I think I'm going to die. I would assume that they're preparing for death. When they make those cocoons, they're probably thinking that they're creating a sarcophagus or a grave site for themselves. And then when they come out, they're like, oh my God, I'm a flipping butterfly. This is the coolest thing ever, right? Same with us is like, the biggest growth experiences aren't like us waking up and be like, today I'm going to grow. It's more like, oh crap, I got to have this terrible conversation. I know it's going to end badly. Like you have all this negative stuff. That's a sign that life is opening a door. And if you can jump through, you'll feel much more connected to yourself and to other people. So yeah, it's so ironic, right? That the things that everybody's trying to avoid is the pathway to the person that they want to be. It's not the thing. I was talking to somebody the other day. What High Noon is essentially doing is we're taking people to the dark cave that nobody wants to go to because the only way to get to the bright light is through that dark cave. That's where the sunlight, the world that you're waiting for is through that dark cave, and you can't get through it or to it any other way. So same with connection is you cannot be connected to yourself, to God, or to people unless you have some difficult conversations, unless you reveal yourself and do the scary work of admitting to yourself, to God, to other people who you really are. And that's when you can really start to become liberated in a true sense. Yeah. So I think I started my thought with like, without belaboring this point 10 minutes ago. So consider yourself belabored, everybody. I think you get it. We will leave you alone, but please reach out to us. I mean, can't tell you how many times I've asked people to reach out and people don't, but that's the connection part. If you have any questions, any hesitations, any fears, anything, reach out to somebody and we're happy to be those somebodies if you need us. Otherwise, reach out to somebody who you trust that you know.
There's a certain sect of people that listen to us that are so inspired and so moved by an episode that they don't comment or reach out. Does that make sense?
No.
I'm one of those people. Like
Okay.
I will. That's an indication that I really like something is if I don't react. I'm just like,
Hmm.
I have no reaction. I'm beyond liking this or commenting on this video.
Stupefied.
I'm stupefied. So I would challenge those people. If you're in that boat, like my challenge to you is now is your time where you
And get
comment,
off that boat.
or you let us know, send us a message or like the thing, whatever it is, send this to somebody, be that guy or gal that shares stuff, even though I know you're not.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Just be connected. It's such a wonderful place. When you're feeling connected, I just started doing that out here in Mongolia as a priority. My new medicine is going out into the countryside and just sitting still and just, I can do it usually after about 30 minutes. I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I'm filled up. Like now this is just getting boring, but I could about 30 minutes just sit out. We have a river close to us. Just sit and look at the trees, look at the sky and feel all sorts of feelings. And I'm feeling it because they're being processed and metabolized just by the sitting there, but also because it's coming from my environment, like this beauty. And then after that, I just feel calm. Just I'm a changed man. So like, there's so many different ways to connect with yourself, with Heavenly Parent, and with other people. So find your way. Take the time. It's the most rewarding thing. It adds color back into your life. It makes everything 3-dimensional again. So good luck, everybody. Let us know if you have any great experiences, and bless your little hearts.
Hey, did you know that our team wants to do more events? Well, if you want to bring the High Noon message to your community or group, then let us know and we'll try to work something out. There's a simple application that you can fill out right now at highnoon.org/invite. And one of our team members will get back to you to see what's possible. That's highnoon.org/invite. All right, see you in the next episode.